Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by Gridiron Mo. Gridiron Mo is a new interactive football app that lets you pick plays on the offense or defense and choose what's going to happen in a live NFL game and compare against what other people are doing across the country. Check it out at gridironmo.com or at thegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host for the 49er Weekly Show, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host, former 49ers Super Bowl 29 champion, Dexter Carter. How's it going tonight?
Hey, it's going awesome. It's great to be back with you and ready to get started on another show and get this season off to a fast start.
Yes, sir. I am excited as well. It's been a long off season. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of times it's been super quiet, but football is pretty much back as training camps has been starting for some teams, and the 49ers will be starting this weekend, so I am definitely excited about it.
Absolutely. A lot of great talking points, man. A lot of good things, happening, and, Cap's back. Hey, got a quarterback battle going on, and got some good young talent, in the draft that, could make this team and really have a chance to really make an impact. So, we'll talk about those things.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into some of the latest news. A little bit of a somber day, something that 49er fans pretty much expected, but it became a reality this week. Anquan Boldin signed with Detroit on a one-year deal. The 49ers decided to go with youth, and it was probably the right decision, but I just want to say how great it was to have a quality player such as Anquan Boldin playing for the organization for those 3 years, and he will be missed. What are your thoughts on that?
And you hit it pretty much right on the head. You hate to see a player like him that still has some good playing days in him, but you got to make a decision that's best for the team. But this is a moment where you've got to look at the asset he was when he was on the team and the impact he had. Great leadership. Obviously, the Man of the Year award in NFL obviously speaks volumes. But, I think having him was such a positive thing. And for him to give us 3 years and in my opinion, just insinuated that receiver position, I think it was a move that had to be made, but let's just say we enjoyed the 3 years, and we have to move on with youth, and build the team from here going forward, and just look at the positives.
Yeah, definitely. I'll remember, his first game with the Niners was a 208-yard performance against Green Bay, and then also he had the big playoff games in that playoff run in 2013 against the Packers, Panthers, and also in the championship game against the Seahawks. He was tough as nails, and he was a lot of fun to watch. But I think they had to go with this decision to let him walk, and we wish I don't think there's a 49er fan out there that doesn't wish him the best. So, also Tom Gamble named the assistant general manager. He was with the Niners in a management capacity for about 8 years, went to Philly for a couple of years, and then came back last year. A lot of people, if you don't know who Tom Gamble is, he's got a real eye for talent, and he helped him and Balky were largely responsible for building that Super Bowl roster back in 2012. And so it's really good to have him there working with Trent Baalke, and so hopefully we're going to see a lot of good things to come on that one.
Yeah, when you think about Tom Gamble, you think about great young talent like David Caldwell over in Jacksonville, and it's no surprise to see him come back because he was a part of identifying that great talent when he was here before. Yeah, Baalke is here or was here before, but he realized what Gamble brings to the table, and reaching back out and getting him is an asset to the 49ers. So he was a great talent evaluator, and that's why we see Anquan Boldin leave, and you just have to look at, it was great having him, but having Gamble come back and I'm probably had a lot of decision into that move. You know, do you keep him or do you let him go? And with the way that Gamble and Balky together can identify talent, there are great, great days in the future for the 49ers as far as getting the right talent in and letting it fit into Chip Kelly's style of play. It's going to be an awesome addition to the 49ers.
I think so, too. Another big move this week, probably the biggest move that happened this week, was Anthony Davis, the former All-Pro offensive tackle, comes out of retirement, files his reinstatement papers, and from all indications are saying that the rift between him and the Niners is repaired. You know, if he can get back to form, and the guy's 26 years old, 26 or 27, something like that. He's not an old guy at all. He's still got a lot of years left in him. If he can play, if he can get back, if he's in shape, and he can have impact right away. The right tackle has been so bad. That's been such a tough position for us the last 2 years. If the 49ers have a good, solid right tackle, I think the offensive line is going to be fixed. What do you think?
Oh, I think you hit it. I think you hit right on it. He was a proven commodity, and coming back, he eventually will get back into playing shape and get back to his old form. So the production, I think, it won't take long to get back there, and the impact he's going to have immediately is going to be off the chart. So that's an asset that I don't think anybody expected. Rifts can be fixed, and he wouldn't be back if the rift wasn't fixed. So I think it's only a matter of time that you're going to see that offensive line get shored up real quick, and it's going to be largely credited to the return of Anthony Davis.
I think so. That's for sure. It's going to be a really good thing to watch this year. And then lastly in the news, Colin Kaepernick got medically cleared for training camp. If you look at the injuries that he's had the last 2 years, he's had a foot injury. He had off-season surgery on his shoulder. He's the left knee, right thumb. That's got a lot of injuries the last couple of years. That isn't we're not going to just explain away that's the reason for everything that's gone wrong. It's not. But it does have an impact. So having him 100% is definitely going to be good, at least for the quarterback battle. I don't know how it'll all shake out, but at least I think it gives him a good chance to win the spot back.
But, a part of me really wants him to come back and be at the full form of what he was in his, glory days with the 49ers, because when you think about a Chip Kelly system, a few years ago, in my opinion, the view was, man, this kid here would fit that system perfectly. But then after what happened the last couple of years, and then you see the regeneration of a career of any player in my opinion, quite some time, as far as what Gabbert did. Gabbert really looked like he did when he first came out, of college. He really looked good. He regained his confidence, and I'm talking athletically, runs very well too. And his arm at this point is unquestionable. He really has command of his passing game, makes good decisions. So at this point, I just think the 49ers are in a great position to have two quarterbacks. If Kaepernick gets back to his old form and Gabbert, continues at the pace that he was at, I don't think anybody could be dissatisfied if Gabbert won the position. I think, we've just got Kaepernick in the wings, if something happened. But I think the 49ers are in a great position, man, to have two quality players, two good leaders, and I think anything, is possible right now as far as great production at quarterback and leadership at that quarterback position.
Yeah, I would agree. I think whoever wins that quarterback battle, I think is going to have a good year, especially if the offensive line is where we think it might be. I think the quarterback position is not this horrible abyss that gets talked about in a lot of columns across the country. I don't think this is going to be some bad position here. I think whoever wins the position is going to have a decent year. So,
absolutely.
As we get into our training camp segments, I think that's going to be something to watch.
Absolutely, and I think it's something that, the 49ers and Chip Kelly have to not let this be a lingering situation throughout the season. You know what? It's a quarterback battle. Whoever wins it, it will be clear and cut, and moving forward into the season, hey, whoever wins it, you're our guy. The other guy's the backup. Let's move forward. No ill feelings, no bitterness. Move forward, and that's it.
Right. I definitely hope that happens, because to have two guys that are quality quarterbacks is definitely a good thing. So training camp starts this Saturday. We're going to go through a couple of the key camp battles. One of them is going to be on the offensive line. The right tackle spot. I think that's one of the places where the most competition is going to be. The rest of the line is relatively set. Joe Staley is going to return at left tackle. There's no question there. Zane Beadles, they signed him as a free agent from Jacksonville. 2 years ago, he was an All-Pro in Denver. So the hope is that he'll regain his form at left guard. Daniel Kilgore returns this year from that nasty injury that he had in the middle of 2014. At that point, he was the number 2 rated center in the league by Pro Football Focus. So the hope is that he can get back to his form. And then on the right guard, Andrew Tiller emerged last year, and then they drafted probably the best run blocking guard in the league, Joshua Garnett out of Stanford. So those 4 spots are relatively set, but the right tackle spot is definitely a thing to watch, especially with Anthony Davis coming out of retirement.
Yeah, that line's going to be very, very interesting. And as you notice some guys that are in the lead, for those 4 positions, and I have to agree with you there. But, man, it's going to be a battle, at that right tackle spot. Some great competition, too. Of course, Anthony Davis. And I'm going to tell you, I think there's I don't know if it's called a dark horse or a sleeper, but I just think it's a situation where, the position is open, and we've got a couple of rookies that have an opportunity. And from a bias perspective, a lot of it has to do with what we personally know about a player. And John Theus, having coached him in high school, and then watching him go to Georgia and start as a freshman, I tell you what, he is much better than a 5th-round draft pick. He's a great player to coach. He's a team player, has great feet, great strength, great size, and still learning. He's young. I think he probably has about as good of a chance, in my opinion, as anybody. Long term, he's going to be a great offensive lineman for the 49ers and in this league. But it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he picks up the pro game, because if he picks it up as quickly as he picked up transitioning to college and then coming in, because I honestly thought at watching him through Georgia, I thought he was going to be a 1st-round draft pick. And, anything can happen in the draft, and, he ended up being a 5th-round draft pick. But I think he was a steal for the 49ers, and I think he has a bright future in the NFL, and hopefully it will be with the Niners.
Definitely. You mentioned John Theus. I mean, it's pretty cool that you coached him, because, you got a lot to say. Because, like you said, you know him personally. You watched him develop, and you see what kind of a talent he can be. Just because Anthony Davis is potentially back on the roster, he first has to get reinstated, which he probably will. But there's no guarantee that he's in football shape. There's no guarantee that he's just going to come right back and fit right in. So there's no guarantee there. And so you've got Trent Brown, who was a rookie last year. He's had some conditioning problems. You've got Fawn Cooper, who was also a 5th-round pick this year. You've got Colin Kelly, Blake Murr. Blake Murr was an undrafted free agent. Kelly was a free agent from the CFL. And then you've got the incumbent Eric Pierce, who a lot of Niner fans are just really hoping doesn't come back. I mean, he definitely had a tough year last year. So when you look at that group, and with the uncertainty there, especially even with Anthony Davis, it is not unforeseeable that a guy like John Theus could come in and win the job. So it's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I tell you what, not that it's relevant. I'm just throwing some asterisks in here. But, John Theus, the pedigree as far as his family, man, he had a brother that was a year ahead of him, but he got redshirted. He was a long snapper and offensive lineman, but he actually is with the Denver Broncos. He got signed as a free agent this year, and he'll probably play 15 years in the league at long snapper. He's that good. And he has a younger brother that graduated with my son, and they both are freshmen at Georgia Southern. Unfortunately, this summer, his brother got an injury. Good-looking kid, too. One of the best. All three boys' father did a great job, man, with his boys. All three were excellent long snappers. I'm talking about just accurate long snappers. And but unfortunately, the youngest one got an injury, and he's on scholarship. They both, my son and the youngest are freshmen at Georgia Southern. But he won't be playing anymore because he had to give up football. They honored his scholarship, so he'll still be on the team, but he can't play. But nonetheless, when you have a pedigree like that, I just think, and then you got John, who was the biggest and just the most athletic. I just think he's going to build upon that athleticism and learn from professional linemen and coaches like he is. I just think, man, when you watch this kid, watch him in training camp and watch how much he progresses over this training camp period. It wouldn't surprise me if he snuck in there and became a starter.
Yeah, if I was going to make a prediction, you look at what happened in the off season. Trent Brown and Pierce split time working with the starters. Theus seems like he could play both positions. I guess they liked him.
Yeah.
They liked him at his work at left tackle. He looks like he could be a swing guy. If he's not the starter, he could for sure be. He could play that backup swing role really well. Kelly played left tackle with the second string line, and then Muir was left tackle with the third string. But you look at, especially with Trent Brown, has really ideal size. He's 6'8", well over 300 pounds, but he's had conditioning problems. So there's just no guarantee there. Part of me would like to think that a former All-Pro like Anthony Davis would just return to form, and we get back to the glory days when we had the great offensive line with Staley and then Mike Iupati and Anthony Davis anchoring the line. But there's just, as much as I'd like to think that Anthony Davis will win back the starting job, if he does, I think they will release Eric Pierce. But I think a guy like John Theus really has a chance to be a starter, because if it's not Anthony Davis and he can step in there, I think he could outperform a guy like Trent Brown, who has the questionable conditioning problems right now.
Yeah, I think the one positive thing for the 49ers and this offensive line as a group is that there's a group of linemen, including Anthony Davis and John Theus, that are going to push each other. So at the end of the day, the best will rise to the top, and they're going to be better because they're going to be a competitive bunch of guys that's going to push each other to the brink of greatness. So I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, if the right tackle is not a liability like it has been the last 2 years, I mean, the quarterback has just been taking a beating from the right side each of the last 2 years, whether it's, Gabbert, Kaepernick, doesn't seem to matter. They're getting hit a lot because of that right side. So if they can get that short up this year, I read a stat that when Blaine Gabbert's given time, if he's given 2.6 seconds, he's number 2 in the league in passer rating. So that would, getting him about between 2.5 and 3 seconds. If they can just hold their block for a little bit, I think both of these quarterbacks could be a lot better than advertised. So we'll end up seeing that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what I also believe is, you talked about the amount of time if he's given the success he will have. I tell you, Gabbert reminds me so much, in my opinion, of I know Blake Bortles is only a few years in the league, but him and Roethlisberger, the ability to escape, they're big quarterbacks, but the ability to escape and be able to run, not great runners like, Carolina, Cam Newton, but the guy can run. He can, he's got great escapability to me, but still got that cannon of an arm. So, because of his ability to move, I think it will mask a little bit of the growing that the offensive line has to do. But I think at the end, it's going to be an asset to all involved, because the line's going to grow and they're going to be a great unit. And when need the ability to escape, Gabbert's going to be able to do it, he or Kaepernick. But I think nobody's going to complain if they see the productivity of Gabbert kind of exceed what Cap is able to do. But it's going to be a great battle at that offensive line and at that quarterback position that's going to make that team much, much better.
No doubt. I mean, we'll definitely, when we get to next week, we'll definitely have a little bit more of an idea of what's happening with the quarterback position and also on the offensive line. So that kind of moves us into our second area that we're going to analyze, and that would be the running back position. Carlos Hyde is the clear starter coming back off that injury. Everyone's kind of hoping that he'll regain the form that we saw week 1 against the Vikings when he ran for almost 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the question is, who backs him up? So there's a couple of guys there. Is there anybody that sticks out to you that you like?
Well, you know what? I think Kevin Taylor, the rookie out of Florida, has about as good a chance as anybody. But, got a good group that somebody's got to rise to the top. Sean Drawn, has a good chance because they're probably going to keep about 3 tailbacks probably. So, of course, Hyde is the clear-cut winner, who I think can be one of the top, surely one of the top 10 backs in the league, in my opinion, and easily can be, in the top 8. But Kevin Taylor, I think, based on being in Florida and watching his ability, and I know pedigree isn't everything, but his father wasn't a slouch, Fred Taylor.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. So if he continues to, progress, the Florida offensive system wasn't really conducive to, I guess, Kevin really showing his complete ability, but I think he's got a lot more development in his game. So I think he'll be one of the top 3. Who that third would be, is a guess to any of us, but that's why we have a preseason, and these guys will have an opportunity to either jump into that top 3 and separate themselves from everybody else. So it's going to be an interesting battle.
What I really liked about Kelvin Taylor and the footage that I've seen of him is, number one, he didn't fumble at all while he was in Florida. That's really great. I mean, you don't put the ball on the ground. I mean, that's an asset. You definitely want people like that. But he's really quick. He seems to have really good game speed, and he turns the corner. I don't know if he seems like he's almost a bigger guy who could potentially be a 3-down back. But go ahead.
Yeah, he definitely is a 3-down back without question. He's got decent size and he's explosive, and he has his father's speed. So he, in the future, this kid could be, a free agent, and the potential to start someplace else. Now, And I'm saying that only because if Hyde is healthy and all things being even, Carlos Hyde is going to be one of the top in the league. So I just, I don't see Kevin pushing him to that point right now, but I surely see him, having the ability to, be a 1-2 punch. And if anything ever happens to Hyde to where he's got to, take over, such as Le'Veon, something happened like Le'Veon Bell, and then the second guy at Pittsburgh. He's
right.
Yeah, D'Angelo's pretty darn good. So that's the kind of situation I can see. If Taylor turns into what I think he can, that'll be the same situation with the 49ers, with he and Hyde.
Yeah, I think Kelvin Taylor definitely has a chance to be that guy. The other guys that they'll be competing with will be last year's draft pick Mike Davis. And then Sean Drone he's been a journeyman free agent. He's been kind of bouncing around from team to team, but he played really well last year. He also was pretty good at catching out of the backfield. It was definitely a surprise. So he'll be there. Veteran DeJuan Harris, who I know the coaching staff's pretty high on him. He's got a lot of ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's had experience at the kick return game. He's got speed. So we'll see what happens there. And then also Kendall Gaskins, he's kind of a 49ers camp body or practice squad guy. He's a decent player. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but it looks to me like the three guys that are locks will be Carlos Hyde, DeJuan Harris, and Kelvin Taylor. And then out of Drone, Davis, and Gaskins, I think one or two of them will make the roster, and then that'll be it. So they're going to be pushing each other. I think it'll be Drone and Davis. Davis, you could really go either way on him. I mean, 2015 was really hard to judge because he's running behind a bad line. He had the injury. Everyone will point out his 1.7 yards per carry, but, boy, I don't know if that's a lot to judge on. He was just a rookie. So, I mean, really could go either way on that. But I'm kind of big on DeJuan Harris and Kelvin Taylor as being the guys that Chip Kelly will use, kind of like when LaShawn McCoy, Ryan Matthews, and Darren Sproles in Philadelphia. I think those would be the three guys that he'll use in those roles.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will be predicated on what Kelly does system-wise. It's interesting. You look at Kelly pre-Philadelphia and what he did at Oregon. And to me, what he did at Philadelphia, I would have never guessed he would have brought in Sam Bradford, because I would have never thought he would fit a Chip Kelly-style offense. So is Chip Kelly going to be more of an Oregon or he's going to be more Philadelphia? I really don't know yet. Maybe, people in the Bay Area know what he's going to be. But I think watching him and what offense he's going to really install will be the key to whether which one of these backs ends up being 2 and 3. He's got the talent to do either system, but man, if he can get back to anything close to what he was at Oregon, and then again, Gabbert is more like Sam Bradford, but then and then you got Kaepernick that is more like the quarterback style that you would think would fit Chip Kelly. So I'm interested to see, what kind of full offense is he going to implement this year with the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm hearing nothing but good things coming out of the locker room. You read things like Torrey Smith says he's really excited about it. He seems to, there's Carlos Hyde that said, this offense is kind of genius. There's a lot of talk about how his offense doesn't translate into the pros and things like that. And that's probably something that we'll talk about in one of our future shows. We'll get into a little bit of how Chip Kelly runs his offense and what to look for. But, we're not really hearing a lot of negatives. There was all that talk about how he doesn't relate to players, his practices are too long, they're too hard. You're not really hearing anything like that. So, I mean, maybe they're keeping it tight-lipped. We don't know. I would say at best, all we know is that this is a very large unknown. but the possibilities are there, and I like the possibilities. If this offensive line is shored up, we'll talk more probably next week about the quarterback battle and also the wide receiver battle. But I like the talent that this offense has, especially with a good offensive line.
Yeah, and I think what everyone's expectation is with Chip Kelly is he's shown that his whatever system he runs, it transitioned to the NFL really well, because the first year with Philadelphia, his offense was off the charts. So all anyone is asking, hey, get back to what you were doing then. And I think he will. I think he will. He's got the talent to make it happen. I'm just excited and interested to see exactly, how close he's going to be to what that first year was in Philadelphia. Because after that, they fell off quite a bit.
Yeah, no doubt, because they did make the playoffs. I think it was 2011 or 2013 that they made the playoffs. And, he did have a couple of good years there, but like you said, it just kind of fell apart there at the end. And they had player problems, they got rid of players, but he's not in charge of personnel. And I think that was a big thing where 49ers fans who kind of knew what happened in Philly kind of breathed a big sigh of relief that he's not in charge of personnel. So hopefully his system translates well, and hopefully he can make the most out of these guys, because there is talent there.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and the one thing that even pre-Oregon, what he's done is he's been able to transition his system to his talent. So I think he will do a good job implementing whatever system he has to adjust to his players, and I think it's going to be a good choice, good pick for the 49ers moving forward, and it will be an exciting time for the 49ers again.
Well, we'll definitely all be paying attention to see what goes on at training camp, and we'll probably have a lot to talk about next week with that. So one of the things I wanted to talk about before we end our story today is wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on with you this off season. I know that you got a foundation going on now, and you want to tell listeners what you've been doing all off season.
Oh man, this has probably been the most impactful off season that I've had from a transitional perspective. Got the Dexter Carter Foundation, Dexter Carter 35 Foundation, and if you want to keep up with it, you can go to DexterCarter35Foundation.org and keep up with what I'm doing. But I'm doing a number of programs, benefiting at-risk youth, from academic services, resources, programs to athletic, fine arts, social and vocational programs, health and safety programs that assist kids on being the best they can be and finding their gift in life, and supporting those efforts for them to be the best that they can be. This weekend, I'm actually having a football camp and football and life skill development camp in my hometown of Baxley, Georgia. And got kids, from Alabama, South Carolina, all across Georgia, from Florida coming to the camp. And I'm having also a Florida versus Georgia Border Bowl semi-pro football game, which, the community is really excited about. It's just a fun, packed weekend that we're going to have. And I'm taking a break from a new position that I also got, offensive coordinator at one of the second to the largest divisions in high school football, a 6A high school out of Augusta, Georgia, Grovetown High School. And the offensive coordinator there, and got a great group of talent there. Got about 5 kids with over 10 Division I offers. And excited about the offensive system that I'm implementing there to go along with the great defense that we've already got. Got a great head coach there by Damian Postel, who used to, play ball at University of Oregon. So we're looking make good things happen there in Augusta, Georgia at Grovetown High School. And then got the camps happening. Actually working on a camp now for next year in San Francisco and Los Angeles, among the other places that in the United States that we're working on, Arizona, Toronto, and Berlin, Germany. So there's a lot on my plate, my man, but I'm excited about the future and impacting young people, man, using the blessings and the wonderful gifts that I've been given through this game of football to help youth develop into the best citizens and contributors to society that they can be.
You know what they say, it's always better to build young men and young women than it is to repair adults. It's a lot easier, and it usually brings more impact. So that's really awesome. And so we'll definitely be keeping up with you on that. And so, you know, in the coming weeks, we'll be doing more 49er coverage with training camp, and then preseason coming up, and then obviously the regular season. We'll be looking to have some more guests as well, both fans and former players. And so this is going to be definitely a fun season. Hopefully it goes a lot better than the last couple of seasons. But there's definitely a lot of talent, a lot of possibilities. So be sure to keep tuned in and keep up with all your 49er news. So also on The Grueling Truth, we've got boxing show on Monday. We've got Major League Baseball show coming up on Friday. We just cut a fantasy football show tonight. We'll be posting that tomorrow. So if you're into fantasy football, keep up on all that. We got articles and podcasts, and also lots of other articles on boxing, football, CFL, whatever you're into. You can probably find it at The Grueling Truth. Check us out on our Facebook page, and also on Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, iHeart, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find The Grueling Truth. So, for good time tonight, Dexter, and always great to talk to you. Got any final words for everybody?
Hey, Matt. Hey, I'm excited to be back again, starting this new season with you. Looking forward to a great year on the show, a great year and continuing the things that you and I both are doing off the radio and, of course, on the radio. So looking forward to a great year together, my man. Thank you.
Same here. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it myself. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.